Well, hello class. This is Professor Levy, and I have the honor today to be in Mexico, in the Yucatan Peninsula, in an area that was once inhabited by the ancient Mayans. This is in Itza, which means the opening of a body of water, a subterranean body of water, was the ancient word for it. To orient us as to where we are, first let me say that I have been teaching the ancient Mayans, Aztecs, and Olmecs for many years. But coming here to Mexico and seeing the actual site has been so enlightening. I've learned a lot. It has changed even how I teach and what I'm going to be using. I'm going to have to update some of my previous slides. Primarily because as you see the pyramid behind me, this is one of the oldest pyramids built by the Mayans who thrived in this area from 900 to 1200 AD. And then the Mayan civilization mysteriously collapsed rapidly. We don't know what caused them to decline as quickly. It could have been climate change. It could have been a disease or pandemic. I happen to be here in 2021 where we're going through a COVID pandemic that has affected much of the world. But something caused the Mayans to rapidly decline. At their height, at the pinnacle of Mayan civilization, which is what these pyramids represent, the Mayans had extraordinary architectural skills. They had an advanced calendar. They had advanced mathematics. They had knowledge of the number and concept of zero long before that concept had been embraced by Europeans with Copernicus. And all of this kind of comes together here with the Mayans. The temples were religious, obviously, in nature, to be close with God. And unlike the Aztecs, who came after the Mayans, and this is what I said by visiting historical places, you learn things that you didn't know and changes your perspective. For about 50 years when I would teach pre-Columbian cultures, that is pre-Spanish cultures, I would focus primarily on the Aztecs because those were the rulers when the Spanish arrived. And much of what we learned about Mesoamerica came from a kind of European perspective. But Mayan culture is so much older. Mayan culture is almost 5,000 years old, in contrast to the Aztecs, which just thrived for about 400 years. So you see, much older in that sense. Also a different part of the country. The Aztec civilization is in current-day Mexico City, in that area, Tenochtitlan, where the Aztec capital was and where Montezuma was. And so that is the kind of perspective we often look at it when Hernan Cortez, the Spanish conquistadors, came in 1520 and conquered Mexico and much of South America. That's the point at which we kind of come in contact with this part of the world. But they would build these temples. The priests and leaders would stand on the top. And I want to just point out something that you wouldn't be able to tell just from looking at pictures in a book or even a slide or a PowerPoint. This is a four-sided structure, not a three-sided pyramid. It faces the four cardinal directions of north, south, east, and west. And the number of steps, if you were actually count these steps, as archaeologists and engineers have done, the number of steps total 365. That's significant, and we should recognize that mathematically as being the number of days in a solar year. At the fall and spring equinox, that is in September and March, when the days are equal, that's why it's called the equinox, equal amount of day, equal amount of night. At those times, the shadows that would be formed on this pyramid, as the shadow falls, it would create the image of a snake coming down from the angles of this pyramid. One other thing, I mean, this is over 1,000 years ago. They didn't have television, they didn't have microphones, yet the acoustics is such that if I clap my hands here, I don't know how well the camera's picking that up, but if I clap my hands here, you hear a kind of echo at the top of those steps. The acoustical term for that is called the Doppler effect. We understand that today with physics why that is the case, but it is how the echo hits the steps and echoes and brings the sound all the way up to the top. What that means in practical terms is that when the Mayan ceremonies would take place on this huge complex, that a person could stand at the top of that pyramid and be heard all around without microphones and without speakers. So I'm going to take you to several other sites on this complex. The temple, the sports facility, yes, a sports facility that they had here, and the temple where human sacrifices were performed. Hope you're enjoying the course, hope you're learning a lot, and I hope you one day get an opportunity to visit the ancient Mayan ruins here in Mexico and other historical locations. Take care and be well.